Hey guys, Slynk here with another video, and today's the greatest day ever. Ableton 10 has been announced. I was lucky enough to get an early copy of the beta, so I'm going to run through all the new features, all the small little features, all the big features that they've added in Live 10 as quickly as possible. So let's go. So here we are in Live 10. Doesn't it look awesome? They've changed some of the color schemes, so all the knobs are kind of blue themed. Everything seems to be a little bit blue themed. The font is all new. Some of these icons up top are updated and they just look a lot cleaner and sharper. If we go and zoom in, you can see that all these knobs still look really crisp, and that's because they've updated these knobs to be vector images instead of bitmaps. So they'll always be nice and crisp, and the font just looks great at any zoom as well. And as you can see, the audio clip and the MIDI clips both have the color all the way across the whole clip and not just in the title bar, and when you select it the color disappears. But what I thought was really nice is if I change the color of this MIDI clip, the notes inside the MIDI clip also change color. And Ableton 10's motion has been improved to 60 frames per second, so it looks a lot smoother. Everything just seems to look a little bit nicer, so it's great. There is a couple new themes you can choose. With the light theme, dark theme, the even darker theme, and then the Live 9 theme. And you can see everything still looks the same as Live 9. And flipping over to Live 9, actually, you can see the icons just look so much better. Look at that. They've removed that little border around the outside, and the play, stop, record buttons look nicer. I really like the mid-light default theme. It's a lot softer. I think it's going to be great for those 10-hour music production sessions. Another change in the interface that I think is a huge improvement, and something that used to really annoy me on Live 9, is see this drop files and devices here section? If I just make a bunch of clips, I can't see that anymore unless I scroll all the way to the bottom, and now it's always visible. So now I can always just drag a device on there and create a new channel. Whereas on Live 9, if I created a bunch of channels, even if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I can't see that drag audio or devices here section. It's a small improvement, but it's definitely a nice one. You can now render to MP3 constant bitrate 320 kilobytes per second. Simultaneously, you can also render a WAV file. So you're rendering out two files at the same time. Or if you like, you can render a FLAC in an MP3 or a WAV pack in MP3. Previously, you could only render AIF and WAV, and that was it. You know, it's not exactly necessary, but it's convenient. It's definitely convenient. They've also added backups. This is really cool. I've saved this project as testing backups, and I can see it here under current projects. And if I make a change and then press Ctrl S to save, you can see now I've got a backup of that, and this saves up to 10 backups in a row. So let's make another change and save it. And what's really cool is when you save your project and you still have the project open, the undo history isn't cleared. So I can press Ctrl Z to undo my last two changes. Isn't that nice? But if I close Live or open a different project or something like that, the undo history is cleared. So just keep that in mind. It's more for accidental saves. So, you know, if I wanted to duplicate this clip and I press Ctrl S instead of Ctrl D by mistake, then I can't undo anything. All my undo history has been deleted in Live 9, but not in Live 10. So that's really, really nice. Recorded files now actually include a timestamp in the file name, and that's really important. I used to open up an old project and there'd be a file missing and the file name would be audio01, and then I'd check my browser and I'd have 100 files named the exact same file name. So with a timestamp, hopefully there'll be less lost files and things like that. But let's just give it a test here. So yeah, you can see there, it's recorded a file with a timestamp 2017, and that's going to make things a lot easier in the future. So in the patch notes, they said that live projects are closed 5 to 10 times faster. And I actually tested this. I opened up a massive project that I had. It's an hour and a half long and 160 channels or so. I loaded it up in both Live 9 and Live 10 and then closed it and recorded the results. And there was a huge difference in closing times. Ableton 10 is definitely 10 times faster at closing projects. They also said in the patch notes that it's a little faster at opening referenced files, but I wasn't able to really test that. It's hard to test with hard drive spin up speeds and stuff like that. They've also added the ability to rename your inputs and outputs. So on the audio tab, you can check it out. I know that my microphone is plugged into number 6 on my sound card, and so I've just named it there, and my DJ mixer is plugged into the 3 and 4 input, and this is just really for convenience. So if I wanted to record something with my microphone, I can just see right there that this is the microphone. Instead of tapping things and trying to figure it out, I know which one's which. That's a really nice little feature there. They've also changed the metronome quite a bit. Let's just turn it on. you can change the sound of it now. And you can also change the intervals. So if you want it to be a quicker metronome, there's all these different options here. And these options change according to what kind of time signature you have. And the other cool option is enable only when recording. So if you're just playing and previewing what you've done, the metronome automatically turns off. But if you're recording, then the metronome automatically turns on. And that's really convenient. Saves a lot of time. All right, so let's talk about the browser. You can see there's 7 new folders here. They all got their own color, and this is really cool. You can see I've already been experimenting a little bit with it, but you can just select anything in your user folders or your user library, in the plugins tab, in the audio effects tab, and just assign it a color using the 1 to 7 key, 1 being red and 7 being gray. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these, but it's definitely handy. If you don't want to use these, you can actually click the edit button here and just untick these so you don't have to look at them. And you can untick these as well. Like let's say you don't want to see samples or clips or sounds. Now you've got a much cleaner looking browser. So flipping over to Live 9 for comparison, if I right click on my sample library, I don't have an option to rename it, but in Ableton 10, yeah, you can rename it. In the patch notes, they also mentioned that there is improved behavior for the locate button when you're trying to find a missing file or folder, and apparently the items maintain their collection color. I haven't had a chance to test that yet, but interesting if true. Flipping over to the packs page, you can actually see down here that I have 27 updates available, and I can install and download them right inside of Ableton. These are some packs that I haven't installed at all yet, and I can just click them and they start downloading. It's pretty cool. And even if I close Ableton and then open it again, the downloads will resume. Some of these are pretty big, like look at that, 7 gig. Probably worth it though. But the new feature in the browser that I'm most excited about, this is hype, is the fact that you can look at the groups, and the groups actually appear inside your browser. In this testing group dragging project, I had one group called drums, and if I drag that in, look at that. Oh yeah, and there's a group inside of that group. Very nice. I remember not having this feature was such a pain in Live 9. You'd create, a group, and then you'd have like effects on that group. Let's say you wanted to recycle these drums for a different project. You couldn't do it. You'd have to open the project and then Control-C on the group itself, open up a new project, Control-V. That was the only way to maintain the group hierarchy. But now you can just drag it in. It's amazing. All right, so let's talk about automation. There's a lot of changes in Live 10 with the automation, the way they've set it up. In Live 9, there's usually 2 boxes here where you can select different things to automate, but they're gone. Where are they? Well, for starters, the fades are always visible on any clip, on any audio clip, so you can just drag them over. And the bottom little box here changes the length of the clip, which is kind of nice. Resizing the clip maintains the same fade. That's going to speed things up a lot. So I put an auto filter on a high pass mode on this channel here. So how do we automate this frequency knob? If I move it, I don't see the automation lane. That's actually kind of nice because I used to accidentally click those automation lines all the time. But now if I just hit the A key or click this button, I enter automation mode. So we can see the 2 boxes here that show me all the different automation options that I have. And like normal, if I click something, it automatically selects that in the boxes up here. But one of the biggest changes here is that I can just double click anywhere and create a breakpoint. That's really nice, really fast. If I click and drag a breakpoint, it actually snaps to the grid. Look at that. And there's a nice line that shows you where you're snapping to. Very nice. So if I wanted to do a sweep up like this, it's very easy to accomplish that. So as normal, I can click this plus button to create a new automation lane below and continue editing. If I have like multiple things that I'm automating, I can, but sometimes you're like way zoomed in and then you decide that you want to, say cut this section out. You can actually do it from the automation lane. You have to scroll up to the top here. Oh yeah, and by the way, if I press A, it hides all the automation lanes. That's really, really nice. They've really thought of everything here. Also, if I select all of these segments, I can actually drag them horizontally, left and right. And let's say I wanted to move this breakpoint over to the right, but I wanted to keep it at exactly 743 Hertz. If I hold shift before I click it, it moves horizontally. It doesn't go up and down. So exiting the automation mode, we're back in the regular mode, and they've made a lot of changes to how this works too. For one, you don't need to click on the title bar at the top to move a clip. Everything above the center of the clip is movable. Below the center is selectable. And speaking of selecting, let's say I wanted to select this section and then move it over here. Well, normally I'd have to select it, press Ctrl E, and then drag it over, right? Not anymore. Just select it and then just drag it. Done. When you have it selected, you can just press R and it reverses it. And if we zoom in, I can press Ctrl Shift and then drag the contents of the clip around on the grid. And if I want to do it off the grid, Ctrl Shift Alt and then drag off the grid. So cool. They've really sped things up. If I wanted to mute that one bass hit there, I can just select it and press 0 and it deactivates it. Check out this feature. Let's say we reverse this section and I want to stretch it out. I can just hold Shift and just grab the side of it and stretch it out. Now on this channel, I've got a sidechainer and an auto filter. Let's say I want to add another effect just to this section. I can just drag it down and Ableton 10 will automatically create a new channel, which includes the same plugins that the original channel had. Very nice, very quick. Some other small changes. If I select an area and press Ctrl L, we all know that that loops up the section. But if I press Ctrl L again, it turns the loop off. Now Ctrl L toggles. And also the lock envelope button is now mappable. So you can right click on it and map it to a button on your keyboard or a button on your MIDI controller or whatever. If you don't know what this does, by the way, it preserves the automation lane. So if I copy this over here, the automation lane doesn't copy. If I have this off and copy this over, the automation also copies. Let's talk about MIDI. So I've got a new MIDI channel here and I want to create a new MIDI clip. I can just double click on a grid line and it will create a MIDI clip from that grid line to the next grid line. All right, and this is the big one. You guys might have seen this already, but I have two MIDI clips right here and I want to edit them both at the same time. I just select them and now I can see my pink notes here. And if I hover over these gray notes, they turn blue. And if I click there, now I can edit here. Flip back, edit the pink notes, and you can also click these looping bars here too to flip back and forth, and you can edit up to 7 MIDI clips at a time. So cool. And it's a really elegant way that they've decided to incorporate this. I love it. So with just one MIDI clip selected here, I still have the option to turn on fold and audition mode, and these buttons are now global. So if I flip to another MIDI clip, those buttons are already selected. Turn off fold, flip back, folds off on this one. Kind of nice. It might not be everyone's preference, but I think it's better in the long run. It does go across all MIDI clips though. So up here in my drum section, I have a MIDI clip, and since fold was already selected, I can't see one of my drum pads, which is my pre-kick. So I have to click unfold to be able to add notes for that. But that's not too bad. As long as I have a note on there, it'll never go away. All right, this is a really cool feature. In options, you can turn on chase MIDI notes, which is so cool. So I've got a MIDI clip here with a chord that starts exactly there, runs legato all the way across this MIDI clip. In Ableton 9, I'd always have to start the clip from here to be able to hear these MIDI notes. But now I can start in the middle and it still plays. You can see if I turn chase MIDI notes off, it doesn't play. So that's really cool. If you have like a really long chord that just goes all the way across your section, you can listen to different parts of it without having to start from the beginning. MIDI capture. You don't have to click record to record your MIDI anymore. You can just play, and then if you like what you played, you can hit the capture button. Check it out. And maybe we'll do a chord or something here. That was pretty cool. Hit the capture button and it pastes it in. It looks like it captured the first half as well. So we can actually drag this over, drag it out. And with this playing, I'm just going to jam over the top like a little melody on top. And let's see what happens. Hit the capture button and it's even captured the pitch bends. It's nice to just lay down a quick idea like that. And if I press Ctrl Z, I can go back one step if I don't like it. Very, very nice. So there's a small feature, very, very small, but it's worth mentioning. If I right click on this panning knob here, I can go into split stereo pan mode, and that allows me to pan the left signal to the center or to the right, and the same with the right signal. This is a really small feature, but it's really, really useful. So you can now route individual drum rack pads to one of its parent return chains. So what does that mean, and how do we actually take advantage of that? Well, let's say we've got this drum pattern here. and we want to put a clap on top of those snares. So we drag the clap in, and let's put a clap over the top of the snares here. But let's do a couple extra claps like this. So that's, you know, it's an alright pattern, but what you'll notice is when the clap and the snare are playing at the same time, we're getting some picking issues. This new feature is a really good way to get around that. So let's open up our chains and look at the inputs and outputs, and also look at our return chains, and we can create a new return chain and then send the clap to that return chain and the snare to that return chain. And on the return chain, we can throw a glue compressor on there. And now when the snare and the clap are playing at the same time, the glue compressor engages. Check it out. No peaking issues. A big game changer with this feature, for sure. Now, everyone's been raving about the groups within groups option, and that's amazing. It is amazing. I've got a breaks group in here with a sidechain on it, and then a drum rack, and that's all in a group as well. What I think is really cool is you can right click on a group and select assign track color to group tracks and clips. And look at that, everything changes to be the same color as the group. And that's just going to make things a lot easier to look at. Speaking of making things easier to look at, there's a new shortcut key to zoom in and zoom out on certain parts of your project. So you don't have to go up here and go down like this. You can just select something and press Z and you'll zoom right in. And then Shift Z zooms back out to where you were. So if you are partly zoomed in and you want to zoom into a very small section, you can press Z, and then Shift Z zooms you back to where you were. Shift Z again zooms you all the way out and collapses all the channels. You can at any time press S and it'll minimize all the channels. That's pretty sweet as well. They've also added some support for scroll wheels. So Control and Scroll will zoom. So I can zoom in here, Control. I'm holding Control and just moving my scroll wheel up and down. If I point my mouse over here, I'll zoom into that point. So that's really convenient. If I hold Shift and move the scroll wheel, I'll actually scroll horizontally. And holding down the Alt key and scrolling on a channel will expand it. And as an added little feature, if you're not much of a mouse guy, you can press the plus and minus keys on your keyboard to zoom in and out. All right, let's talk about some of the improvements they've made on the existing plugins. So EQ8, now the minimum frequency is 10 Hertz. It used to be 30 Hertz. The utility has also been updated quite a bit. The gain knob now goes down all the way to infinity. It used to go to negative 35 dB. It still goes up to 35 dB, but now it goes down to negative infinity. There's a bass mono button, which also has a frequency control. So you can set everything to be mono under 100 Hertz. And you can also audition that by clicking the little headphone button there. There's a mono switch, and these are the phase inversion buttons. And the phase inversion buttons actually invert the input rather than the output. There's an included legacy mode, so your older sets will still sound the same, and there'll be just a little upgrade button on the old utilities. All right, let's check out the drum bus. It's a new plugin in Ableton 10, and it's tailored towards pumping up your drums. It actually is an analog style drum processor. First of all, let's just hear this loop without the drum bus. All right, let's turn it on, and we'll turn the transients all the way up. And let's try the transients all the way down. So you can get a lot of punch out of that. There's also a crunch knob here. And a drive. And there's also a built-in compressor. The boom section is pretty nice as well. You can increase how much bass or boominess it's got. And you can audition it with the headphone button there. And if you change the frequency, it changes the note. And you can change the decay on that boom as well. And I think this is more tailored towards like 808s and trap producers, but it's awesome nonetheless. And on top of that, there's a dry wet control. So you can kind of do like parallel effects processing here. Drum bus is really cool, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with it on things that aren't drums. Pedal is another new effect in Ableton 10. And it's kind of like a distortion overdrive, but it's more based around like a guitar pedal. And I think it sounds a lot better than the overdrive, for example. The overdrive always was just way too harsh. It was hard to get like nice, warm, deep sounds out of it. But the pedal has definitely changed the game. So in Serum, I'm just playing a saw wave. Let's turn it on and see what kind of sounds we can get. That sounds pretty tough. There's a really nice button down here called Sub, and it will just kind of introduce more bass into your sound. Sounds so thin now, and that's thickened up real nice. So this is going to be really handy. I want to try it on bass lines. I want to try it on drums. I want to try it on vocals. I think it's going to be really, really handy across the board. A great plugin. And just for contrast, let's try do some cool stuff with overdrive here. Like it just, I don't know, it sounds, it's nowhere near as good as the pedal. It just sounds so tough. Ableton's been lacking a really, really nice delay kind of plugin for a long time, and they've just introduced the Echo for Ableton 10. And this thing is crazy. So I've just got like a chord playing in Serum here. Let's turn it on and see what happens. It's kind of like tape delays, and man, I haven't really played with it that much, but it's crazy what you can do with it. On this character tab, there's all sorts of interesting controls. I believe the ducking, it's like an internal sidechain, so when I'm playing a chord, I don't hear any echo until I let go of the note. And there's a nice release time there, so that's really nice. There's also a bit of a reverb section here. I'll turn the ducking off for right now. There's all kinds of different timings you can get with this. I'm not even sure what this percentage knob does. Maybe it's illustrated here. Oh, okay. Look at that. I love the visualization. It's amazing. You can really see what's happening. It's very, very interesting, and I'll probably end up doing a full video on cool stuff you can do with the Echo. And of course the big one, the brand new Ableton instrument Wavetable. This is crazy. It's got two oscillators, which both have multiple folders of wavetables you can scroll through. Look at all these crazy wavetables. And you can even change the wavetable view for a circular view, which looks really cool. You've got 3 envelopes. Well, you've got 1 amp envelope and 2 auxiliary envelopes and 2 LFOs. You've also got 2 filters down here, and you can use all those cool new filters that Ableton introduced in Live 9. So this is all very familiar to Ableton users. This part, however, the matrix is not so familiar. So it only shows up what you have modulating. So if I click on this, for example, my oscillator position, my mod wheel is assigned to that, but I can just click that and hit delete and it goes away. Let's assign it to the LFO instead. That's pretty cool. You've got unison down here as well, and there's a bunch of different unison modes, and they all sound very different. Personally, I think I like the position spread the most. Oh yeah, and also, if you double click on any parameter in Ableton, it's like as if you clicked it and then pressed delete. It resets the value. I can only imagine how deep this rabbit hole goes. You can loop these envelopes. That's really cool. That is really cool. And it looks like there's an attack for these LFOs. Very nice. You can change the LFO shape. You can't draw your own LFO shape. I think all those extra features like drawing your own shapes and that kind of thing really taxes your CPU. But look at this. We've got 2 wavetables playing 3 voices. And I'm barely making a dent in my CPU there. So I think it's just being optimized for low CPU usage. We've also got a dedicated sub oscillator here. So let's take a look at these little options here. We've got FM. So I'm just playing a sine wave. And this amount can be assigned to an LFO. Let's try this classic mode. Looks like it's a pulse width. Pretty sweet. And what's in this modern section? Warp and fold. Very interesting. It's almost similar to the syncing modes in Serum. Unfortunately, you can't FM from oscillator 2 to oscillator 1. I don't think you can anyways. But yeah, it's a very cool plugin. And as I said, it's very low CPU. There's a ton of different wavetables in here. So I'm going to be having a lot of fun playing with this. So that's Ableton 10. I think I covered almost every single feature that they've added in the new version, aside from the Max for Live stuff and the new stuff on the push. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on the push or with Max for Live, so I'm just going to let you guys discover that stuff on your own. That being said, I am really excited about all the features that I covered in this video. You know, they really spent a lot of effort trying to optimize your workflow. And I think a lot of the shortcut keys that they added and, you know, like the multi-MIDI clip editing and things like that are just going to be huge time savers in the future. And of course, I love the new plugins, the pedal, the drum bus, and the echo. I feel like I'm going to use them all the time. I'm never going to use overdrive again. And I don't think I'll ever use ping pong delay ever again. As for the wavetable, I think it's really cool, but I'm going to need to experiment a little bit more with it and try and find my favorite, you know, wavetables within Wavetable and just see if I can get some cool sounds out of it. I really want to discover what its strengths and weaknesses are. So I might do a video on that in the future. But thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Oh yeah. This new metronome sound is sick.